I'm going to go to that Kroger and I'm going to buy it and I'm going to make a video of me dumping it out and pissing on it. I'm going to send it to you.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello.
That was your zombie hello.
Yeah, just waking up.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Hello there.
And today we're going to be doing, your basic everyday episode, garden variety episode here with, rants and questions and recommends and warns and things like that. So is anybody pissed off about anything?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I'm as mad as hell!
You've never seen me very upset.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
You are, right? You are.
I'm not pissed, but I have noticed this in a couple movies I've watched in the last couple weeks, and I've realized it's maybe worth making a recurring sin in the videos about. And it's where somebody in a movie has an affair, cheats on a spouse or a significant other, but the movie by the end makes that significant other partly or mostly to blame for the cheating. Usually it's a friend of the cheating spouse that says, it's not like you were around for them anyway.
It's always
what were they
that,
supposed to do? And that shit is fucking infuriating. And I'm just going to make an analogy because I recently watched this Tiger Woods documentary, the two-parter on HBO. And I feel like something I said about that, about Tiger in general, applies here in that his father was way too hard on him, started him way too young, was a bad influence with the womanizing. And Tiger has this massive media pressure on him from such an early age, and that can make an environment for a person that makes them more susceptible to bad decisions. But that person still has to own those bad decisions. Mm-hmm. It's not entirely Earl Woods' fault that Tiger cheated on his wife with like 12 different people. It's not entirely the fact that he's a celebrity's fault. He still made those choices. And in these movies, when people cheat, it's interesting that I chose an analogy about adultery with a real person, but they still made that choice. They still went and cheated. I don't care how fucking cold and distant Mr. Dude was, or actually, I'm genderizing it my way because I have experience with this back in the day. But it could be the man that cheated and then somebody's blaming the wife. I've seen this happen in movies too. But it's very frustrating because people need to own their choices. And I feel like what the movies are trying to do ultimately is either get them back together or hint that they'll get back together. And in order to do that, you have to sort of spread the guilt around on both sides. So everybody has to sort of compromise and say, yes, I also am responsible for you opening your legs for that other person because I wouldn't play Yahtzee with you. It's just bad writing, and it makes me angry.
Tale as old as time.
Can I argue with you for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think you're wrong. I think you're right and wrong. Because I think you're right in the fact that movies rely on this as a crutch. You're absolutely right. And I think you're absolutely right about the documentary kind of building a case for why Tiger did what he did based on his background. But also, there are some movies where it's like, man, this guy's a dick. This guy is a terrible husband. This guy is never around for anything. What was On the Rocks was what you were watching, Chris, recently, right? Where this happened, where it seemed like the relationship wasn't ever off the ground in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, they show a happy couple right after they get married, and they cut right to it being on the rocks, essentially, where they're like they're kind of talking to each other, but they're not like registering everything each other's saying and everything. Mm-hmm. The whole movie is about her thinking that he's cheating on her and everything.
Yeah. And he's probably wrong in that sense. But like there are movies where I think it shows a justifiable dalliance, and I'm not coming up with any right now, but it's like where the significant other is not abusive necessarily physically or sexually or anything like that, but they're just gone, and the other person is just like, you know what, I gotta meet my needs.
You take care of yourself, or you end the relationship. I'm not. You're
Take
not
care
gonna,
of yourself.
You're not
Like,
going to make a very good case to support adultery, at least not with me.
all right.
Like, if a husband is abusive, I could see if you're seeking shelter somewhere else and feelings happen. I'm not trying to say it's like a no exceptions kind of rule, but I'm just saying, generally in the movies, it's just because the husband works too much. Like the movie Unfaithful was one of the movies I saw recently. Richard Gere isn't a bad husband. He works too much. Even after she's having the affair, she's in the tub.
No, you're right.
And
You're
she's
right.
like, you want to join me? She's trying to act like they're going to have sex in the tub because their marriage is not that bad. He's just distant. And she sleeps with Art Dude, who frankly I think is a prick that probably deserved to die. He carries himself in that movie. He's very well acted, but I hate that character. It's just like, hey, your wife gave it to me, man. It ain't my fault. I was just here. My dick was out. She brought that stuff in
He fell
here.
on it.
He's in there painting with his dick.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think of the reasoning for Kristen Bell and forgetting Sarah Marshall?
What was her reasoning?
Well, obviously she should have gone to Jason Segel early on and said this isn't working, and then started banging Russell Brand. But
yes,
but later on, when he finally gets her alone and asks what if she didn't even try, she goes, "Oh, I tried," and then she shows like all the different things that she tried to do.
Yes, and I get that he takes some responsibility in the relationship not working.
Mm-hmm.
But she takes all responsibility in the cheating. And also, it's somewhere around in there that he finds out it was a whole fucking year before he found out about it, before she broke up with him. So, yes, he was not a good boyfriend, and he needs to own that, and I'm okay with that. But she needs to tell him that and leave him before she starts, throwing caution and other things to the wind. That's all I'm saying. It's not hard. It's not hard to end a relationship if you're at the point where you're like, yes, I am 100% ready to fuck this random person that is not in my relationship. Just give a phone call. Tiger Woods broke up with his college girlfriend in a letter. Just hey babe, it's not working out. I'll pick up my stuff tomorrow. Boom. Then at least you're not committing adultery. You're not cheating. At that
But
point.
what if you just do a one-time thing? And then you come back, you're like, that's not for me. And then you come back and you're like, all right, I'm down with what I was with before. You have to go out and explore. I'm not saying I would do this, but somebody goes out and explores and like, maybe, I'm not getting what I need from this. Maybe I need to go out and try this. Okay, that didn't work. I'm back to the other person. You can't just wipe that whole relationship away, especially if you're married and just say,
okay, if you're in a relationship where sleeping with another person would be considered cheating, then that's a serious enough relationship for you to break it off before you sleep with somebody else. You don't need to sow any wild oats if you're already in a place where, like, if you just been on one date with a person, then she finds out you fucked Karen, that's no big deal. You didn't cheat. You weren't committed.
Yeah.
There's a big difference there. And I'm just saying, to bring it all home, not to make this a referendum on adultery, but the movies use this as a crutch to try and wrap the movie up with a bow, and it's very often, well, what did you expect them to do? You were never around, and I fucking hate it. Drives me crazy.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
I have a brief one. I didn't really have much, but yesterday when we had our false start on trying to do this podcast, I was getting into a rant, just talking about the general news of the day and everything. And one of them was there's discussion of a bill that would raise the minimum wage to $15 in this country. There are a lot of cities, I believe, that already have a $15 minimum wage, but this would make it federal. Of course, there's the usual arguments about, small businesses can't pay $15 an hour and all this other stuff that's going on. But the people that pissed me off were the people who were like, it should be 25. It should be 35. It should be $50, blah, blah, blah. That may be true. Maybe 100% true. But you got to take baby steps. You can't just sit there and go, it should be 35 and raise the minimum wage from $7.25 and go all the way up to 35 just because we're making up for lost time. That's just not the way shit works. And consider it a victory if they even get the 15 passed. Yesterday, just reading these people go just railing like $15, so fucking what? And I'm like, is that not better than $7.25? Can we at least get there? What?
It's at least twice as good.
It's at least twice as good.
Do you remember how long it's been $7.25, Chris?
It's been there for a while.
I think when I was at Hollywood 27, I was making minimum wage. I know that. I think it was $6.75 at that point.
It can't have been, man. I was hiring people in 2002 at $5.50 an hour.
Oh, well, then I was making $5.50 an hour for sure. I certainly didn't have any like experience or anything like that.
I feel like the last time it was moved up was like 2008, 2009.
I think he's right about there. Yeah. It was an early Obama thing, I think.
But I really don't know. I don't remember the last time it went up. And because we're all self-centered in some way, minimum wage didn't affect me at all at the time that it got moved up. So, but the thing that just pissed me off was there were several people, and this is just Twitter. I mean, Twitter's not, an end all of anything, but I was surprised at how many people came on there. And instead of being happy that $15 might even be discussed, there was an idea that it was just not enough. And you have to start somewhere. You can't sit here and go, we're going to give you $50 an hour now. And because that's what the cost of living is and blah, 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 you've got to start, you got to start at a bare minimum, unfortunately. And yeah, it may very well need to be $25 or $30. It may, $15 may be outdated, but oh my God, you gotta take victories where you can get them, with a Congress that's this deadlocked and everything. So, and not that we're anywhere close to getting that done yet, but it was something that was discussed, and that's been sort of like, oh, that might happen. And then we had all the people who are like doomsayers about everything, and it's just like, shut the fuck up. Just let us do one thing. And if this works, and if the economy booms and everything, then maybe we talk about making it higher than that afterwards, because hey, that worked. Or whatever, and then, or if it didn't, or it doesn't work, you're like, okay, well, that didn't work. Well, shit, we'll keep it at 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's my very, very, very short rant.
I like it. I see this a lot in politics discussion where somebody will say zero carbon emissions now, and I'm like, that's like not practical. Why would you even try and argue for that? Like, we can't. If you take politics out of it, that's not doable. That's not practical. We're not just going to stop driving our cars. Anyway, this is one of those instances to me where, yes, maybe it should be $25 an hour. That's not practical for a few different reasons, but it's also not passable. You're not going to get that through Congress. And so you have to shoot for something that is an increase, that is doable. And I'm with Chris on this.
Yeah. Well, speaking of money, I have a cheese rant.
So, did you say cheese?
A cheese rant, yes.
Money and cheese.
Money and cheese. Like cheddar? What?
Cheese is money.
That's right. So there's always been this staple of downtown Nashville on 2nd Avenue called the Old Spaghetti Factory. And many cities have it. They're all across America, at least. And I've been to a few of them. And it's basically ambiance, right? There's a trolley in the middle of it. It's nice and done up like a palatial Victorian type of way. And they sell you pasta. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing the greatest thing that you've ever had to eat, but it is fun. I used to go for my father's birthday a lot and that kind of thing. And they have on the menu this thing called Mazithra cheese, with browned butter on the pasta. And Mazithra cheese is a Greek cheese that I had only gotten at the old spaghetti factory. Quick side note is in Nashville, the old spaghetti factory has now blowed up as of Christmas Day. The bomber that you guys have probably heard about
and forgotten about took out the old spaghetti factory, which has been there at least for 25, 30, maybe more years. I remember going there in my childhood. So that's a whole other shame. But I always wanted to have this Mazithra cheese, which is shredded. It's like a hardish cheese, kind of like Parmigiano Reggiano. And I always wanted to make that. Suddenly, at my local grocer, this being Sprouts, I had it. They had a container of Mazithra cheese from the old spaghetti factory. I was like, eureka, holy shit. And so I made that shit all the time. It was delightful. After about 2 years ago, Sprouts stopped selling it. So I was like, well, that sucks. I forgot all about it. After the bombing happened and the old spaghetti factory is no longer in Nashville, I was like, man, I wonder where I can find that again. You can find anything online, right? So I go online. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to order some Mazithra cheese. My two options are I can get it from Instacart for $6, something like that, or I can order it from Walmart for $28 for a 5-ounce container plus $11 shipping. So basically it equates to like the price per ounce, like beluga caviar, essentially. And as much as I love this cheese, I ain't paying that much for it. So if I go to Instacart, I don't know if you guys have been following this, but Instacart is a food delivery and pickup service that works with several local grocers like Mariano's and Publix and stuff like that. And they have their employees tried to unionize recently, and they just laid off a big mass of people that were agreeing to unionize. So on moral grounds, I ain't going to use fucking Instacart for anything. And I'm not going to spend $39 on a 5-ounce container of cheese from Walmart to be delivered to my door. You see what I'm in a pickle I am, people. I want cheese. I can't go down to the old the spaghetti factory because it's blowed up. I am in a cheeseless zone, and I don't like it. Just buy the cheese. I'm
not paying $39 for fucking cheese.
I submit you don't really love cheese if you're not willing to spend it, because here's the deal. Surely this is a case of supply and demand. If there were more demand for this cheese, it would be more readily available and it would cost less. So you are a unique connoisseur with a unique palate. Therefore, you ought to be willing to pay a premium for something that might have to be shipped from fucking Italy. You don't know.
I could get a fucking black truffle, like an entire black truffle, for probably that much. And I'm not spending it on a 5-ounce container of Greek cheese that I could get for $6 2 years ago.
Or if you didn't have morals.
I have morals.
I agree with you, morals. But I'm also, you have a Sprouts?
Yeah.
God, my grocery options are Publix and Kroger.
Yeah.
And that is it.
Yeah, Sprouts is
like
Sprouts
some
rules.
independent shit.
Yeah, Sprouts is dope.
What about Whole Foods? They got to have that cheese, right?
Nope. Looked everywhere. Although I'm sure like a listener will get on and say, well, actually, they're at 7-Eleven. If you go to aisle 6, you can find it in the frozen goods section.
Let me ask you this. Have you done any Googling for that cheese and then the phrase taste like?
Yes.
Or other names for?
There's nothing like it.
You're just being stubborn. You gave up.
Where was this cheese being sold again that you were getting it delivered from?
Instacart was the one option. That was the reasonable priced option. And Walmart.
Instacart was coming from where?
It's just Instacart. I don't know where they pick it up from, if it's a distribution center, if it's an actual grocer.
But if they can get it for you for $6, then somebody can give it for you for $6.
Look, if somebody wants to do the legwork to get this cheese to me, I'm all for it. Send it to our P.O. box. But I'm just saying that my search has ended in frustration. Don't buy me cheese. Don't buy me cheese. Don't spend $39 on fucking cheese.
I didn't say I was going to spend $39.
Don't fucking do it. I'm not going to tell you the name anymore.
How do I spell the cheese?
No, I'm not going to tell you. It's CHEDDAR, motherfucker.
How do you spell the cheese? I'm not going to buy the $39 one. I want to Google. I want to prove my Google foo.
No.
I failed earlier.
No. Case
then
closed.
I reject your entire story. I reject it in full.
I can't find it. Is the point, and I want it, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to get turtle fucked by like a fucking supply and demand thing. I don't even know what turtle fuck.
Jeremy, I'm overriding Barrett. This cheese is spelt MIZ.
Yes.
ITHRA.
Thank you.
You're going to find it at Whole Foods for like, I've been looking for years for this. I looked at Trader Joe's. I looked at Whole Foods. I looked at all over Chicago and Nashville.
The internet. He's not.
So even the Walmart one was $28.
That's correct.
See, Instacart is bringing you the same fucking thing Walmart's bringing you. So
yep, I agree.
There's got to be a way to get it. Kroger, 37072. That's a zip
Kroger
code.
Doesn't have it.
Dude, do you want the cheese?
Looking at Kroger?
You want the cheese or not? You want the fucking cheese or not?
I'm on Instacart, and as I suspected when you were talking earlier, it does tell you where they'll be getting it from, the store and the zip code.
No.
So if you buy the $6 cheese from Instacart, they will get it from the Kroger at 37072.
But I'm not using Instacart.
I'm saying go to the Kroger directly.
I don't think that's a possibility, man. I don't think if you go to Kroger's website and you search for the cheese, it ain't there.
I don't know how
Instacart is.
You don't want the cheese. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to go to that Kroger and I'm going to buy it and I'm going to make a video of me dumping it out and pissing on it. I'm going to send it to you. You can't make this your rant if finding a solution for you doesn't work. 37072. I'm going to Google that. Kroger. 37072.
You're going to carve Barrett's face into the cheese and then pee in it.
It's probably a really nice one. Where is this Kroger at? It's down. I'm going to this Kroger tomorrow, and I'm going to get you this fucking cheese.
Not there. It's not there. I know it's not there.
Oh, man, I can't wait until Jeremy finds this cheese and then shows a picture of it to Barrett. Oh, my God. That's going to be great.
And then whips out his dick.
I'm going to end you. I want to find this cheese now more to spite you than you wanted to find it to eat it. All right? That's what you have lit the fires of spite within me. And I will find this cheese and I will mock you.
And then you'll find out that Dave Grohl played on every instrument on every Foo Fighters album.
All right. A spirited discussion about cheese availability. All right. Well, do I dare ask if we have recommends and warns?
Oh, you dare.
Totes Amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to recommend a movie that when I ran across it on Netflix, I think it was Netflix, I was like, oh, no, how in the world did they get Mel Gibson and Sean Penn in a movie together?
Oh, no.
And I saw the cover of it, and I was like, oh, my God, I bet this is just like, it's got to be a train wreck, right? And then, you know how Netflix does, and I don't like this. I could actually make this a rant if I wanted, but I hate how they just go right into a fucking preview of the thing that you're highlighted on. I'm sure you can cut it off. I'm sure everybody in the world will send me something saying, you can cut that off and blah, blah, blah. The point is, I don't like the fact that they did it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it started playing this trailer, and I actually started watching it. I was like, man, this might actually be pretty good. I might watch this. So it's about Mel Gibson is playing James Murray, who's one of the founders or one of the editors of the original Oxford Dictionary.
Oh, I remember this movie coming out.
I
watched called The Professor and the Madman.
Oh my God.
And oh my God, what?
You've seen this, Jerry?
I saw this movie. I talked about it on the podcast. I don't remember much at all, except I don't think I liked it. I'm curious to know what you thought, though.
Really? You talked about this? Anyway, you know, he becomes the, you know, a leader in this, trying to make the dictionary and everything. And they start with the letter A. So like everything is about, not only can we define it and get all the different definitions of it, but we need to find the uses of it over time and find it in different texts and things like that. This, of course, is a very slow process. And they are running behind. And of course, they've got people who are like, you aren't getting your shit done on time. Fuck you. I'm going to take you off the editing of this. Who even knows if this even happened? They probably threw this in the movie, just to make a conflict that wasn't actually there. But this discussion of making a dictionary runs by Sean Penn, who is in jail because he killed this guy thinking that there's like demons chasing after him or something like that. And he's been sent to a criminal asylum. And obviously he's just sitting in his cell doing nothing all day, but he ran it. There was once Mel Gibson starts sending out like, letters for people to help him out with the dictionary, he runs across this and he starts coming up with words and finding the sources and everything for him, a lot of the different words and stuff. And so a lot of this, these first letters that they get done, and they think they publish letters all the way up till it's like 20 years before they get the full dictionary done or something like that. And so Sean Penn has this this is the part that maybe, Jeremy, I'm pretty sure you may have hated. He kills Natalie Dormer's husband. Mm-hmm. And Natalie Dormer is, once he's in prison, he wants to say sorry to her and everything and say, I didn't mean to, essentially. And he didn't. In the movie, it's clear that he was not of sound mind when he did this. And then he starts showing how sorry he is, and Natalie Dormer starts falling in love with him. And that's the part of the movie that's like, I don't know if that's real or not. And it seems kind of like really far-fetched and whatever. So this is kind of a weird thing that they threw in, but the actual friendship that develops between Gibson and Penn during this is really good. I like the idea of what they had to do to get this dictionary made, like the standards that they were having to follow to do this and everything. And I thought it was really good. Except for the Sean Penn, Natalie Dormer thing makes no sense at all, but everything else I loved about it. And I know that those two actors are super polarizing. But I thought they did really good in this, and I was not expecting anything great from this at all.
Yeah, they're polarizing, but you can't deny the fact that they're both really good actors.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I mean, what's weird about, I loathe Mel Gibson for what I know about him as a person.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I can watch his movies. I could say the same thing about Kevin Spacey. I absolutely love watching Kevin Spacey act. I love watching Mel Gibson act. Now, he's not always in the best movies, but I loved him in Braveheart. I loved him in Maverick. I've loved him in several movies. I even have some affection for the first Lethal Weapon. Same with Kevin Spacey. Same with Sean Penn, man. Like he always brings it when he's in a movie. And even though it's kind of disgusting, well, it's not. I mean, they're polarizing for very, very different reasons, obviously. But I think generally I can separate the art from the artist, which has no rhyme or reason with me.
Yeah, but if that is if Jeremy, I hope that Jeremy didn't go like into super huge depth on this movie in a previous podcast, and I'm just going over it again. But I really liked it.
I don't remember. I really don't remember what I said. I think I ended up not recommending it. It may have been a rec of Warren or a Warren, but I don't remember why. So
yeah. I'm going to totally check that out. And I want to go next because it's a populist one. And I think, Chris, you've seen the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. WandaVision has sucked all the oxygen out of the room. And I don't know if it would have done that if it were a normal year. Like if Disney Plus had launched not in the middle of a pandemic, and there were regular MCU movies coming out like Scarlet Widow, Black Widow, or all the other movies that are going to come out on Disney Plus, if it would dominate, because it's a very subtle, slow burn mystery so far. Now, as we record this, there's only been 3 episodes. The first 2 were released at the same time, and then the third one came out as we record this the Friday before this. And I watch it with my son, who's a big old MCU head, if that's a thing. We're all familiar with the MCU, and the first 2 episodes are very straightforward mimicry of the first one is more of a 50s Dick Van Dyke Show. Second one is more of a 60s I Love Lucy type of thing. A little bit, not necessarily Brady Bunch, but the black and white style sitcom. And I asked him what he thought afterwards, and he was like, "This is boring." And I was like, you know what? You're right. There are some weird things that happen in this universe. And if you have read anything about it, you know that this is some sort of conceit, whether it's, Wanda making her own universe where Vision is still alive. Obviously, Vision died in Infinity War. What's he doing back?
What? Oh,
yeah,
fuck.
exactly. So there's something sketchy going on, obviously. And the cracks are starting to come through in the first 2 episodes, but that third episode is finally where they hook you right in the nards, and they'll bring you right into you, because there's more tangible stuff happening. There's more of a conspiracy happening. There's a little more Easter eggs that relate to the general MCU coming in, and I am psyched to watch the rest of this series. I honestly do not think it could have survived, or at least thrived as much as it had this been a normal MCU Phase 4 rollout. But I'm kind of intrigued, and it just kind of worked out to be the perfect storm of people being patient enough, because this is the only MCU content they can get right now, to go with it like I did. And it's very, very interesting. Chris, what did you think of the first 2 episodes?
Oh, I thought they were fine. I mean, it's, you're there, as much as this is supposed to be doing some quote heavy lifting for the next phase of Marvel's next phase or whatever. Apparently that's what this show is doing. It's a big bridge to that. I have seen only the first 2 episodes, so I don't know exactly where it's going, but as much as there's this big mystery and everything, it does look like it's more along the lines of, we just want to kind of do something different, and we're going to have a big mystery, and there's going to be a I guess satisfying ending to this that helps bridge this to the next movies and everything. But in the end, I think there's the people who made the show are like, we like old sitcoms. Let's make a couple of our Marvel characters in these old sitcoms and play with their characters a bit. Yeah, and that's basically what they're doing. And in the first 2 episodes, I thought they were fine. I mean, you have a lot of references to earlier, sitcoms and everything. Bewitched is in there. Bewitched is the big one. And I think there's even some Pleasantville vibes in that second one. But I thought it's fine. I'm more along the lines of it's incomplete. I'm waiting to see where this is going before I finally say, okay, that was totally worth it or not. Yeah. The stuff leading up to it has been fine, has been entertaining enough. And I think it's funny that Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen. I already love both of those actors, but they seem very at ease and very just like this. There's not much that there's not a big huge movie that they're having to be in here, and it seems like a big weight is lifted on their acting. They're able to kind of like, oh, this is fun, this is something that we can really get into.
You're not kidding, because those parts of Wanda and Vision in the MCU and Civil War and Infinity War and not Endgame, but those parts are what felt forced. That whole, hey Viz, you're coming through the thing, and you're cooking dinner, and you got paprika and stuff like that, and we're going to give this a shot, and how do we have sex? That all seems super forced in the movie version, But in this
Yeah,
version, you can see actual affection between the two of them.
Mhm.
Thank God she ditched that accent. But it's interesting. I'd be curious to see where you stand on the third episode. And this, I did do against my better judgment. Well, actually, not really. It was a Hollywood Reporter article that speculated on where this could go based on the comics. They had no advanced knowledge of where it was going in the show. But they said, well, this is a potential and this is how this works. And if it does work out the way that one of the ways that they predict, it's going to be mind blowing. And I am way on board and I am rigid thinking about it.
I'm going to temper my expectations, and that's the only way to go, because every time I hear, oh, it's going to be mind blowing, it's usually like some big, huge, like Easter egg type thing that only Marvel comic people know about.
Yeah.
And when they finally lay that whammy on you, it's like, oh, well, yeah, totally. I'm never, I'm always the guy having to go on the internet afterwards and go, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
they, Google knows what I need to know just from that question, So
Jeremy, you haven't watched this at all, right?
No, I will when it's done, if people I trust tell me it's good. Currently, it doesn't appeal to me at all. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that these characters don't appeal to me at all. And I'm sure the show is giving them time to be characters, whereas the movies never did, and that's why I don't give a shit about them. I'm more interested in the Loki show, because it looks like it's just going to be Loki tripping around through real-life historical events, causing mayhem. Like, did you see the trailer for that?
I haven't seen the trailer now.
Well, it implies he's DB Cooper at one point in the trailer.
The actual DB Cooper?
Yes.
Oh,
now it may be an alt history. Yeah. Remember, he's in an alt timeline, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, he like puts on the DB Cooper sunglasses and smiles, and it's got that Loki grin. That could be a lot of fun. But no, I haven't watched this yet. I'm gonna wait and see.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're in an alternate reality with this. The Loki show is in an alternate reality. We know that Doctor Strange is going to be a multiverse thing. What's curious to me is that they're setting up a very expansive idea. Multiverses are hard to manage. Like, it was probably hard for people to wrap their minds around, the Infinity Stones and Thanos and all that stuff. When you start going into multiverses and gods are going to have the Eternals and stuff like that come up, like, how much is this comic book audience or this Marvel fan audience going to be able to really internalize the repercussions of all this stuff? Or what I think they are going to do is yada yada, like they did the time travel in Endgame, and be like, multiverse, this explains this, blah, 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 yada yada, we're done. And I think that's probably the way they're going to go. If they go full multiverse and actually explain this shit, then it's going to be really curious.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. I would recommend WandaVision for sure. Stick with it so far. Again, only 3 episodes in, but I starting getting going now. Starting ready to go. Get on the train.
All right.
Choo-choo.
All right. I'm going to recommend a 2018 movie called Rafiki, which you can currently find on Hulu. I found it flipping channels on one of the movie channels, and I'm not going to lie. My first thought when I passed the title was they made a whole movie based on that Lion King monkey guy. And that is 100% why I clicked over to see the info and read what it was about. And it's about basically a coming-of-age, forbidden lesbian relationship in Kenya where homosexuality is illegal. And this film is fantastic.
Oh, yeah?
The main character, her name is Kenna, and her parents are separated. Her dad runs a local store, like a bodega kind of store, and is running for office. She wears baggy skater clothes and backwards baseball caps. She's not a girly girl. And the movie's almost all in subtitles. there's a local guy who has a moped she hitches rides on sometimes, and he really likes her and keeps asking her out, and she keeps pushing him back. And then she spies across the street one day the daughter of her dad's political rival. This guy already holds the office. Kenna's dad is running against him. And this girl couldn't be more different than Kenna. Her name is Ziki. And she wears crop tops and skirts and has long braids that are bright colors, blue and yellow and green and red. And she and her friends make up pop music dance routines. And that's how they spend their afternoons. And slowly over the course of time, these two girls, it starts with just looks. And then they have a couple of encounters and conversations. And it's just, I don't know how to say this right. There's nothing sensationalized about it at all. I don't even feel like the movie's clearly making a statement about homosexuality because of its setting and its topic, but it's not exploiting that in any way. It's just two people falling in love, and it takes its time. It doesn't rush anything. It's not tawdry. They are found out eventually by one of the parents. They end up getting arrested because the local gossip tells on them, and again, it's illegal. And so the parents, the elected official guy, sends his daughter away to like Paris or someplace to just be gone. And Kenna has to stay here. Her dad's career is ruined. His shop has been destroyed by a violent mob, and she just has to pick up the pieces. And then there's one final scene where she hears, Ziki's back in town, and she goes to a place where they used to hang out. That's a beautiful ending. I'm getting goosebumps right now. The point of this movie is not spoilers, by the way. And Kenna goes to the top of this hill, and she hears a voice, Kenna, and she turns, and it doesn't even show you the other girl. It just shows you the big smile that this girl has, and it goes to credits. I was delighted. I didn't have any expectations going in. That may have played a great deal. I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a 92, so I don't think I'm that far off in saying it was really good. And that's a full-on recommend. It is in part English and Swahili. So
I've heard of this movie. I had no idea what it was about, like you. I remember a reference to this movie, but did it get a stateside release? Like a theatrical release?
I don't know. It only made 175,000. Yeah, it looks like it had a U.S. release.
I feel like I've heard this title before, and it had to have had a release of some sort.
Oh, it played at Cannes.
It might be just like what Jeremy was saying, where the Rafiki sounds like, it's like Lion King spinoff or something like that.
It looks like it played at Cannes and had a Kenyan release, and so it probably didn't have a theatrical release in the U.S. But again, it's on Hulu, and I encourage you to check it out.
I'm going to check both of those out. Nice recommends here.
Yeah, we're having a good session, except for that cheese bullshit.
The cheese thing is all that anybody will be able to talk about from this podcast.
It will already be resolved by the time the podcast
That's right.
I see that middle finger.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about movie once again.
Movie.
Barrett and I both saw the same movie over the past week called Sibyl.
Wow! Out of all of the offerings, we landed on the same movie. This is quite a movie.
Yeah, I mean it's a story that sort of told a lot out of order. It's like a big puzzle almost. It's about this psychiatrist who wants to write a book, but she is using her patients essentially to come up with story and plot ideas and everything. And one of the people in this movie is played by Adele Exarchopoulos from Blue is the Warmest Color fame, at least here. And she's an actress who is doing this intimate movie with this other actor, and they're going to shoot on an island, but she's pregnant with his child, and they're not in like a real committed relationship, but she wants to figure out if she wants to keep it or not and all this. and she wants her psychiatrist to tell her what to do, but psychiatrist is like, I'm busy writing my book and everything. But still, she ends up getting into her life and everything, and actually like so much into her life that she ends up on the island while they're shooting the film, and like really inserting herself into everything that her life is. And so it's there's a lot of like crazy stuff going on though. Like the psychiatrist is conflicted by her own past and her own current situation, and that keeps getting mixed up with all the other stuff that she's doing now, and it's like told in all these little snippets and everything. It's a really interesting film.
I absolutely adored this movie, and it's not because of my francophile tendencies or anything like that. It's there's a lot to unpack in this movie. There's a lot going on where it ventures into absurdity to where like her life is becoming the fiction. There's times where it's super funny, especially her sister. There's times where it's a maternal drama where she doesn't want to become her mother. There's a time where it's an addiction thing because she's in recovery. Don't ever watch this movie and say, this is what psychiatrists do. No, she's a terrible psychotherapist. She's awful. And in fact, her psychotherapist tells her that she's awful. He's like, what the hell are you doing, man?
I mean, what is it called? Is it called transference when a psychiatrist does the things that she does in this movie?
Well, it's actually countertransference when it comes to the therapist and the patient. The patient to the therapist is the transference, and the countertransference is from the therapist. And she admits, she's like, I'm obsessed with this woman. And you don't really know why, but she keeps making decision after decision after decision. And it's just an amazing performance. An actor that I wasn't aware of, Sandra Hüller, German actress that almost steals the movie. She's the director of the movie within the movie.
Oh, yeah. She's got some great moments.
She's fantastic. The way that she talks to Margot, the actress in this movie within the movie, is absolutely hilarious. So this is the highest recommend that I can give of maybe anything I've seen on Mubi. Sibyl is just an absolute delight. Get it at Mubi. I haven't seen it anywhere else. It came out in 2019, but 2020, I think, in the States, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. And the French, they love them some movies where like the reality and the fiction sort of blend together. Yeah. Like they love making these movies about making movies, but then the making of the movie sort of gets in the lives of everybody and everything. So like it's another in a long line of those anyway. But Mubi's got a lot of good selections right now. So
they do. And if you're into Yorgos Lanthimos, his first film or his first major release, Dogtooth, is on there. There's the short that he did with Matt Dillon, on there. There's also a few titles that you may be familiar with, starting with 1995's anime classic, The Ghost in the Shell, which is a tremendous movie. If you've seen the ScarJo version, disregard that from your memory, wipe it clean, and go back and watch the original anime
no pun intended
version. Exactly, because it's much better. There's also the zombie classic, the George Romero classic, Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 version. So Mubi's got everything. What it is, if you've gone to the site before when we've talked about it, it's changed a little bit. They have the movie of the day lineup at the top of the screen, and then there is no library. The library is basically merged into the site. It's still super curated, but you can scroll down and you can get to movies like Sibyl. There was a subcategory of women behind the camera, and Justine Triet is the director of Sibyl. And I was like, you know what? I want to watch something from a female's perspective. And God damn it, can you not realize that it's a female director shooting this thing? It's not exploitative. You can totally tell the difference between the male gaze and the female gaze. Another story. Anyway, but you can get into that stuff right on the main page at Mubi.com. And the important part, people, other than you need to go there right now to watch Sibyl, is you go to Mubi.com/Cinemasins and you get 30 days free, no cost, 30 days.
That's a lot of movies.
That's a lot of movies. You know, it's still winter where, you know, the groundhog's probably going to see a shadow. Well, we're going to be locked in together for a few more months, and you get 1 month free of Mubi if you go to mubi.com/cinemasins, and you can watch amazing curated cinema that you will probably not find anywhere else. It's delightful. Go do it now.
Does anybody do we want to do another round of recommends and warns, or do we want to go to questions?
Let's do one more round.
Let's do another round.
All right. I'm going to recommend, this is a movie. It's rare that we get a chance to do like a recommend and warn for, a movie that we did an interview for or whatever, but I'm going to recommend Psycho Goreman.
Nice.
We interviewed the director, Steven Kostanski. And a lot of this there's not much expectation from it, but when we got somebody asked us if we wanted to interview the director and everything, I went and looked at the trailer. And I was like, oh shit, this is right up my fucking alley. Oh my God, this is the best shit ever. This is like an 80s, it's cheesy, but it doesn't look like they've made it to be cheesy or anything or try to be ironic or anything. They're making this movie that looks like it's straight out of the 80s and everything. It's about this creature that gets buried up. It gets buried in this buried a long time ago. Same, typical, what's the Green Lantern
The Parallax
guy? Parallax. It's the same sort of deal. There's this evil that gets buried. Now we're in the modern day, and there's these two kids playing out in the yard, and they end up digging this big huge hole where there's this creature down below that they awaken, and there is this sort of medallion that comes with it that the kids can use to control this monster. And the monster is somebody who goes around and just like destroys entire worlds and all this type of stuff. But because this little girl's got this medallion, she can make him do whatever she wants. And the girl, the girl is played by somebody I had never seen before. Her name's Nita Josie Hannah. She plays this girl who's probably as crazy as Psycho Goreman is, the monster in this movie. She gives zero fucks. No one tells her what to do, especially not her parents. Her parents are hilarious in this movie. The mom tries to keep things together, but the dad is just like a fucking schlub. He's such a dumbass, he's a Homer Simpson type kind of guy or whatever. So a lot of this is about how they're controlling this monster and what they're going to do with it and everything. And it's just funny all the way throughout. There's no moments of, when we was talking to, the director, I was like, it's almost like you had the Seinfeld philosophy here where it was like no drama, no learning, or whatever it was.
No hugging, no learning. Yeah.
Yeah. No hugging, no learning. And there's not any moments where people stop and assess and go, we have to learn something from this or whatever. None of that shit. All of this is like everybody's out for themselves in this movie. Just all the different tropes that from like 80s and 90s movies and everything. They just lean into all those things, and it's just amusing all the way through. Just such a funny movie. I can't recommend it enough. I'm pretty sure it came out last week on sort of your on-demand services and everything. But yeah, go find it. If you want to talk about a movie that just absolutely you don't have to worry about anything at all. There's no, all it is just trying to make you laugh all the way through it. Several scenes in this where like you'll see people fighting or doing something. There's this real intense music playing with it and everything. It's like dun, 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 or whatever. And it always seems to cut back to like 20 feet away without the music. And it shows these people doing the same things, and it looks so dumb when they're doing it. I think even though initially this doesn't seem like a Jeremy movie, I think Jeremy might like this.
I have heard that from one other person. So
Yeah, it's something that I don't know if you will like or not, but I do think that you should at least give it a try. I think Barrett would be all over this movie.
I was this close to pulling the trigger last
Very
night.
famously, Barrett, when we were discussing who was going to be doing the interview and everything, Barrett sees the press release and goes, "Ha ha ha ha, ha no," on his reply. And I was like, all right, and ended up watching the movie, and I was like, I bet Barrett would like this. So,
I'm gonna check it out. It's on the list for sure.
all right,
I'm gonna go off script from what I wrote down and jump the gun a little bit. We are going to be doing a 2020 movie and review episode soon, somewhat soon, but I'm gonna jump the gun because I have to talk about Freaky. Freaky!
Ooh.
Freaky is so good! Freaky is awesome!
Freaky's fun.
Freaky is so much fun. This is a slasher movie starring Vince Vaughn and is it Catherine Newman?
Newton.
Is the Catherine Newton, who is the teenage girl in this movie, and it's a body swap comedy, horror comedy, and I could not have less interest in this movie at first blush than I did, but I decided, you know what, I'm in the mood for something light. We just watched this, and it was fucking awesome. It was so fun. What Chris just said about Psycho Goreman could apply to this movie. The beginning is so gloriously violent. It is hilarious. This movie will make you absolutely giggle all the way through. You remember the first time that you watched Happy Death Day, especially, it's the same director, by the way, especially if you didn't know what was going on in Happy Death Day before you went into it, and you had so much fun like I did. This is just as much fun. Vince Vaughn, once he transitions into the teenage girl's psyche, but still in his body, it's almost as good as Jack Black playing the teenage girl in Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle.
I think it's better.
I think it is
I think
too,
it's better.
because it's got more time to develop. Yes, there is a penis joke. Yes, there is a pee joke, but it's also hilarious. There's just there's something involving Aaron Rodgers that absolutely just killed me. This movie is so much fun, man. He's a serial killer. They swap bodies. The teenage girl, Catherine Newton's character, becomes the serial killer, but she's in that body, and Vince Vaughn is the teenage girl in his body. And I hate body swap comedies. I'm not a huge fan of slasher movies, but this one hit all the right beats. It ain't perfect. There's a lot of cliches thrown in there. There's a lot of cliches that are exposed. The dude, as they're running away, her best friends, the guy is like, "I'm gay, you're black, we're dead," and it's like, yeah. But it's also a way to wink at the audience. And this movie's fucking fun. You should watch it.
I guess it's a play on Freaky Friday. The title is.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any like credits to the writers of Freaky Friday on this or what, but in Freaky Friday, I guess there are some amusing situations that come up, from, a daughter being their own mother and the mother being their daughter and all this other type of stuff. But there's like some actual consequential actions from the fact that she is inside Vince Vaughn's body and that he's in her body, because everybody thinks that, she is, an innocent girl that, but it's also, there's a power difference too. There's a complete power difference.
Yeah.
They don't make it where suddenly just because he's a serial killer, in her body, she can still do the same things that he could do.
Right.
But the fact is that, she inside of Vince Vaughn's body puts her in a lot of danger because people know who this killer is.
Yeah.
They know who that he's plastered all over the news and stuff. So she can't really show up, in public really, because people know who he is.
Yeah.
So,
There's a hilarious,
there's a lot of interesting dynamics to it.
There's a hilarious scene involving Alan Ruck from Ferris
He's
Bueller.
such a dick in this movie.
Oh,
God,
my
he's
God.
such a dick.
And there's some very interesting humor that derives from her love interest. This movie hits you. You think you know where it's coming from, but it hits you in different ways. And it's. Did you enjoy this, Chris?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, it's very much in the same.
I think it will. Like if you wanted to have a double feature, watch Psycho Goreman and then watch Freaky.
I've held myself because I have to watch a lot of movies, 2020 movies for our eventual episode. But I've really, really wanted to watch this again. And again and again.
Yeah.
It's super fun. Jeremy, I think you'd enjoy this one. It's certainly not, a quote gore fest or anything like that. It's just fun.
I think the reason Psycho, Goreman, and Freaky appeal to me is that I tend to like a heavy dose of comedy in my horror.
Yeah.
Like Tucker and Dale and Cabin in the Woods all have their gross moments or bloody moments or slasher moments, but I'm having too much fun. I'm not grossed out by that. So I'll have to check those both out.
I will say Freaky definitely has some deaths in it that are going to make you go, ah! But they are so over the top.
It's so great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to warn. Am I the only one warning today?
Yeah.
So
I'm going to warn. I'm going to keep you on Hulu, though. Hulu listeners can appreciate this. Humanity Bureau, 2017 film starring Nicolas Cage.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh no.
It's a 25 on Rotten Tomatoes. In the future, global warming has turned much of America into a desert wasteland.
Okay.
It's hard for people to make a living and be productive members of society in that environment. And when you are found to not be a productive member of society anymore, which is determined by an officer of the Humanity Bureau, you are exiled to a place called New Eden, which sounds and is described as paradise.
Of course.
Nicolas Cage arrives at, first of all, this movie is so bad it's watchable. I'm warning it, but I hope you watch it. The budget can be seen in a few hilarious ways. They do have this like phone technology that's just like green holograms off his phone that kind of looks good for this budget of a movie. But then when he's driving in a car, you can tell the car isn't moving, and Cage is just jerking his shoulders every now and then. And the road behind him doesn't match. It's like Toonses from Saturday Night Live. So he shows up to this woman's house. Her actress's name is Sarah Lind. I did not recognize her, but she's been in stuff. And she has a son. And Nicolas Cage, of course, has their file. The Humanity Bureau, they know all about everybody, of course. And they offer him some water, but the water's no good, obviously. It's brown. It's gross. And he decides, you know what, you are not a productive member of society. You're not contributing anything, and I'm going to schedule you and your son to go to New Eden. Only then, after he leaves, he learns a terrible secret. New Eden is not a paradise.
What? No fucking way.
New Eden, the place where they exile non-productive members of society, is actually a killing zone. It's basically where they kill the people who are not productive in society. I'll tell you what, if you want to sell the lie, Humanity Bureau, then, phrase it better than you're not a productive member of society. Go like with The Island and say you won the lottery. You're going to New Eden. It's a better place. By selecting only the people who don't do shit, you telegraph your twist from minute one. Anyway, it gets better because it turns out Nicolas Cage is that dude's dad, that kid's dad. And the woman is impersonating the woman Nicolas Cage fucked to make that baby. And he decides, I have to save this kid because he's my kid, and I'm not going to have him incinerated at New Eden. I heard, much like all these post-apocalyptic movies, there's a free society up in Canada, and we're going to try and make it to Canada. All the while, the other Humanity Bureau people are chasing Nicolas Cage because he's gone rogue. This is 7 different movies rolled into one. Like, this is Equilibrium, The Island, In Time. But I couldn't stop watching it. Like, I was mesmerized by the suck. And I imagine most Nicolas Cage low-budget pay the rent movies from the last 10 years are probably equally watchably bad. Even the big budget shit he does is watchably bad, like Knowing. But this is terrible. You're going to hate it, and I'm warning it. But please watch it.
Is there anybody else notable in this movie?
No.
I guess by extension, this is like Logan's Run as well.
Yes.
Logan, like, I was like, if anybody, it seems like every, I don't know, 10, 20 years goes by, somebody's like, you know what movie we haven't remade in a long time? Logan's Run. Let's see if people will be fooled this time. And they always do this where it's like New Eden. I think the island had a name for whatever place they were going to too.
The island.
It's called The Island, right?
It was called The Island?
Yeah.
I thought The Island was what they were on already.
Oh, no. But this, I do want to tell you, the third actor, the guy pursuing Nicolas Cage all movie to try and arrest him, his name is Hugh Dillon, and he is an actor from Canada, but he's also the lead vocalist of a punk band called the Headstones.
I'm not familiar with that Canadian punk band.
He's been on some episodes of Yellowstone. No, it's not. Nobody else is in this movie. But here's what I do admire: is whoever wrote this very watered down concept wrote something that was very easy to shoot on a budget. There's only like 5 total actors. It's a desert wasteland, so just go out into the desert near LA and shoot that shit. So it was a smartly executed production of a terrible film.
All right. You imagine a Canadian punk band? Like, do you think they're really polite?
Yeah.
They probably are.
It's like what we
hey,
like
buddy.
Music.
We want to say fuck you,
tail
but
like
we'll
that.
just say thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm open
Fill 'em with
to
kindness.
you.
So, all right. So I recommended The Professor and the Madman, which I believe is on Netflix. Psycho Goreman, which is like on demand, I believe right now. You can get that on wherever you get on demand stuff. I recommended both of those. Barrett recommended WandaVision. Obviously that's on Disney Plus. And he recommended Freaky, which is another, I believe, that's on demand right now. I would second that one. Jeremy recommended Rafiki, which is on Hulu. And he warned the Humanity Bureau, but I think he was really kind of warning it. Which is, Humanity Bureau apparently is Logan's Run 3. So, so with Nicolas Cage,
And also
that
the
sounds,
Adjustment Bureau a little bit.
Yeah, and the Adjustment Bureau. That's right. All right, we got any questions? We want to do some questions?
We do have some questions. And
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
And I love these questions. Here's the first one. What profession would you like to see depicted in a movie? We've seen plenty of movies about cops and robbers, but what are some other jobs that would make an interesting film? I don't know if robbers is a career choice, but cops is for sure, and there's been a lot of cop movies. What do you guys think?
I'm super biased, but I think a movie projectionist could be a good movie, but the problem is now those are instantly period films now. Movie projectionists. But I always thought this, I figured if you ever you didn't have to make a movie about everything they do on their job, because that would be fucking boring. You don't want to do, just, hey, they started a movie and, they watched it or whatever. But you could do a lot of the different things like that, that I remember doing on very special nights where you had I've talked about The Dark Knight, running 2 prints through 7 projectors and, trying to get these kind of things like set up, like things to save movies that are going to there are many times where I've saved movies playing when there was that looked grim that the movie was going to get to show. And things like that. But you would put in a story around a movie theater there. It would be another thing around that. It wouldn't be just, projectionist starts movies and builds movies. This is what it's about. You would do a bunch of stuff around it and everything. So we've had movies like Cinema Paradiso, depict projectionists, but they did the sort of the same thing where it was he's a projectionist, but there's like a love story involved with it and everything. So we'll do it that way. Obviously, we saw Fight Club. It's a snippet of Fight Club where Brad Pitt is a projectionist and he splices in porno stuff into kids' movies. But I think that just seeing. And maybe not today. Maybe it is. Maybe there's even more interest to see what a projectionist did back in the day. Now that it's been almost 10 years since there's still projection going on, but there's not to the level that it was going or whatever. But I always thought that you could drive a story around that. So
I like it. That'd be good stuff.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm coming at you hot off the presses. I'm ignoring my show prep notes. And there's an outfit that has been in the news locally for the last 5 or 6 days called Adventures with Purpose. And I've only just learned that they existed because they just came to Nashville. But apparently they're relatively new. It's a nonprofit, and they go from city to city. And their mission is to pull vehicles from waterways specifically to bring closure to families of victims whose bodies have never been recovered or who went missing. So they just pulled out of Percy Priest Lake yesterday the body of a man named Bill Simmons who went missing, I think, 6 months ago.
I saw that, yeah.
His family had no idea where he had gone, had no closure. And these guys are diving professionals. They use this sonar technology that somehow allowed them to know they were about to pull up the make and model of car Bill Simmons had been driving.
Interesting.
And they went down there, dove down there, wrapped the entire car in a net, and brought it and his body up. And now that family will have closure. And it's both morbid and fascinating and wholesome. And I never even knew this kind of a job existed. And maybe that's because it's relatively new, although these guys were clearly salvage divers before they started this nonprofit. But I think a film following those guys would be fascinating, both to show, I figure that has to take a toll on your psyche. I figure it's hard physically to do that job, and just the willpower to decide to do that and keep doing it. And continue to face yourself with grieving families. I'm fascinated by the whole thing. It's been on my mind all morning. So
yeah, it'd be a basis of an amazing movie. I mean, there's all sorts of...
Such a great answer.
there's so many different angles you could take with that. You could start with just the way this job is and what it does to people and everything, and then they turn up one they didn't expect. That's the murder one. That's the one where somebody, and then you have a big murder mystery around it and everything.
What that reminds me of is, did you guys ever, I'm sure you saw it, but did you like Bringing Out the Dead, that Scorsese movie?
I haven't seen it since it came out, but I don't remember liking it too much.
Same.
I don't think it's a bad movie, but it's a hard movie to like because it is about the paramedics and the toll that their job is taking on them, especially when they go to, first responder type of things. And I think this could be, a similar kind of mindset of a movie. And I find that very fascinating. That's an awesome answer. Similarly, again, I am biased because I worked at a psychiatric hospital for several years, but I swear to God, man, if somebody could base a story in a psychiatric hospital. I'm not talking about therapy. We've seen Analyze This. We've seen The Sopranos. We've seen all kinds. We just talked about in the movie ad about another psychotherapist. But I'm not talking about outpatient therapy. I'm talking about inpatient, non-addiction centers for purely psychiatric patients. and never, ever, ever seen it from the practitioner's point of view. You've seen it in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You've seen it in Girl Interrupted. There's a little bit of perspective from Whoopi Goldberg's character in Girl Interrupted, but you've never seen how shit goes down at a psychiatric hospital. I'm talking about the nurses, the charge nurses, and the medication nurses. I'm talking about the counselors. I'm talking about the techs that respond to basically, any sort of issue or malfeasance. And I'm talking about the janitors. I became or custodians, I should say. I became very, very close with the custodians in our unit because they were asked to do just miserable stuff. And I don't want to get into what that stuff was, but they were always happy because they would find ways to interact with the staff that were fascinating. The doctors, some of which were based in the hospital, some of which are what's called hospitalists, where they have an outpatient thing and they just come to the unit and do their rounds for, 30 minutes or something like that. The dynamics in there are fascinating. And I don't mean to sound like condescending or anything like that, but you can't imagine what goes on there. If you ever read House of God by Samuel Shem, you know that there's sex that goes on at hospitals between staffing. You know that there's drugs going on between the staff. You know that there's alcoholism. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that goes on at hospitals in general. But in the psychiatric hospital, not only are you having to manage that dynamic interpersonally within the staff, you have to take care of people that don't have overt needs like, a colonoscopy or an MRI or an ECG or something like that. You have to take care of people who are depressed, people who are anxious, people who are psychotic, people who are a mix of all the three, people who are a mix of that and drugs. And God damn, I would watch the crap out of this. Even if I had no experience at a psychiatric hospital, I would watch the crap out of this movie or series. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Good answer. Good answer.
Next question. I like this one a lot too. You've mentioned Ronnie Lilly from Barry and Teddy Perkins from Atlanta. This person is a very astute listener, by the way, of our podcast from Atlanta as great introductory episodes to their respective series. My question is, and this is such a great question, if you were trying to introduce a friend of yours to one of your favorite TV shows by showing them one episode, which would it be, and which episode would you show them, obviously, other than the pilot? What do you guys think? I love this.
So Jeremy has the best one for The Simpsons, but
you can use it, actually. I decided not to use it.
You're not going to use The Simpsons?
No, I would actually rather talk about my Frasier one. So if you want to talk about the Simpsons one, you can.
All right. Well, I'll mention both the Simpsons ones. Then Jeremy was going to say the monorail episode of the Simpsons.
Yeah.
This is at its height. The Simpsons in the 4th season, I believe that's when that episode came out. Is it's one of the best seasons of television in history. Like nearly every episode in the 4th season is great. It's just where the writing was just absolutely top notch and sharp and everything. There is another one, I believe it's a season or 2 after that I was going to say, which is the Homer the Great episode, which is the Stonecutters episode.
Oh, yeah.
And both of those episodes have it all. They have the sharp writing. They all have they both have memorable songs in them. The monorail episode where Leonard Nimoy shows up in that episode, and he's trying to make the monorail seem like something so much more than it is and everything. And he's like, yes, going into a deep journey down the blah, 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 whatever. And there's this guy like next to him. And he's like, does anybody here want to switch seats? There's all sorts of cool stuff in that episode. For Rick and Morty, I would pick Pickle Rick as the episode for that. That's a standalone sort of episode for Rick and Morty that I would suggest. Just really fun and out there. And then for Game of Thrones, obviously any Game of Thrones past episode 1, you start getting into spoilers and everything. So maybe you don't want to show anybody a late episode, but I picked The Laws of Gods and Men. This is the episode where Tyrion is on trial for a death of a major character, and he has to go through this, kangaroo court essentially, where everybody knows he's innocent, but he's just going to be found guilty. And then by the end of it, Peter Dinklage puts in probably one of the best performances in television that you have seen in the last 20 years at the very end of that episode, where he explains how he's feeling at that moment, basically knowing that he's being sent to death. And I would highly recommend that if you had never seen Game of Thrones before. I think even if you get spoiled a little bit about what happens in that episode, that would make you want to watch from the beginning. So
that's a good point.
Yeah. I felt it's interesting. I ended up picking 2 episodes of 2 shows, and these are both probably my favorite episodes of each respective show. But the criteria for me was pretty specific. I want people to be able to get a feel for what the show is, tone, style. I want them to be able to get a feel for all the characters, and I want them to have a really good time, so they'll want to come back to this show more. So I'll start with Frasier, and I chose the episode Ham Radio, which is my all-time favorite Frasier episode, where Frasier gets this harebrained idea, which is typical Frasier. Let's do an old-time radio show on the talk radio station, and he convinces them to give him a half an hour to do this. And he writes this Nightmare Ends, like horror murder mystery. As every Frasier episode tends to do, he goes overboard with his plans. He shoots way too high. This is very typical Frasier. You get to see sibling rivalry with him and Niles. And then, of course, the night of the production, it just all falls apart in real time. And it keeps cutting back to his dad and Daphne at home listening to this radio show that has gone off the rails in ways you could never imagine. And it is laugh out loud funny. Most of the characters are here that you will know throughout the run of the show. Roz is in this episode. Bulldog is here. Kenny, the station manager, is here. And everybody, Noel, he's the sound effects guy who's in love with Ross. But it's really fucking funny. And I think when you finish this episode, you'll have a smile headache and you'll be like, I got to watch more. And then for Friends, I chose an episode called the one with the embryos.
Nice.
Friends thought they were cute because every episode is called the one with the, and it's not cute. And it's in my opinion, a famously mistitled episode.
No kidding.
At the time, I think they believed the A story was Phoebe getting in vitro fertilization with her brother's stuff, getting embryos implanted in her, which would go on to be triplets. And she has funny lines like, I'm having my brother's baby. But it ended up being the B story. The A story is this trivia contest. And I could tell it. You can watch this episode and see how it worked out, right? We've got to get Phoebe to this doctor what should we have all the other friends do? Well, let's joke in the beginning of the episode about how well they know each other and who knows the other one's best. And it turns into a full-fledged trivia contest where Ross writes all these questions, an entire lightning round, which gives the writers an opportunity to just pop, and all of these jokes land. Everybody gives a good performance, and I'm fascinated by this episode because I think historically Friends did not use Lisa Kudrow very well, as we've seen in her later career. They often gave her what I thought were morbid humor jokes, always joking about her mom's suicide or being homeless, and that shit's not funny. But there's an entire season, starting with this, the embryos episode and going through Ross's marriage in England, where Phoebe is a B story all season. Yeah. And it's because she's pregnant. But that's because Lisa Kudrow got pregnant. And so, they shot some of the wedding in England. So Lisa Kudrow was in the 3rd trimester and couldn't fly. And so they wrote that into the plot. Phoebe can't go to the wedding because she's in her 3rd trimester. So she's on the phone for 2 episodes. And anyway, I'm fascinated by the fact that she missed out on being a part of the most famous scene in Friends history because she was pregnant in real life, and her story had to take her in a different direction. Because most Friends fans, if you ask their favorite episode, they're going to name this one, the trivia contest.
Yeah,
and Lisa Kudrow had to sit it out for the most part. Anyway, there you go.
You know who steals that episode sneakily is David Schwimmer. Because all the reactions are fun with the ooh, I know, what is Chandler's job and all that stuff, and then of course Courtney Cox doing the no. But David Schwimmer is he gets so into this. He's like, what? And he's made the little cards and he's made the little lightning bolts on the back of the cards and everything.
Well, he keeps doing game show voice. We're starting with $100.
And then at some point is a Jenny Aniston that's just like, stop doing that.
Yeah, he goes, excuse me.
God, he's so good. I got a show that's on Netflix right now that I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon. Documentary Now. And Documentary Now has done 3 seasons now. It was originally conceived by, I believe it was Seth Meyers and Fred Armisen and Bill Hader. And I think John Mulaney was involved in it too.
Yeah, sort of. I don't know if he's a producer.
Yeah, and it's an anthology series, and this is something that I don't think gets talked about enough. Every episode that I've seen is absolutely hilarious, but they're mocking each documentary. Each documentary episode is introduced by Helen Mirren, who acts like it's a real show. And it's a takeoff.
50th season.
Yeah, it's in a 50th season. And it's a takeoff of all these famous documentaries. Nanook of the North, Stop Making Sense. Like all these documentaries that a lot of people have watched. Grey Gardens is one of them. Not all of them will resonate with you, especially if you haven't seen the Source episode. But there are a couple that will make you absolutely double over regardless. The first one is The Bunker. And this is the one that got me involved in it. I have never seen The War Room, on which this is based. The War Room is a famous documentary focusing on the campaign trail of Bill Clinton in 1992, and specifically his campaign managers, James Carville and George Stephanopoulos. And so Bill Hader plays the James Carville character, and he will absolutely murder you with this. Like, none of these things, by the way, except for the Stop Making Sense one, which was a little weird to me, but none of these are direct derivatives of the documentary. They're more real homages to them, and it's not taking literal dialogue and putting it in to them and making fun of it. It's a subversive thing. So The Bunker will get you really, really into it. But what really solidified it for me was Juan likes rice and chicken. So if you've seen Jiro Dreams of Sushi, which was on Netflix for a long time, it's about an old shop owner in Tokyo who has dedicated his life to sushi. And he's got 2 sons. One is he's training to be a master sushi chef, and one has been kind of not exiled, but done his own thing and gone off and created his own empire. And this, first of all, I didn't realize it was a direct derivative or a direct mockery of Jiro Dreams of Sushi, because it's different enough where you're just like, what is this? And it starts straight enough. This is what I love about this type of humor. It starts straight enough to where you're like, really? Really? And then when it does take the turn, it's just so rewarding. It will absolutely, I've watched this episode probably 5 times. It's that good. And I can't recommend this enough, the series, but those are the ones that get you into it. Would you agree with that, Chris? You've seen most of these episodes, right?
Yeah, I've seen them all. And I had seen roughly 40% of the documentaries that they make fun of in these things. I would say that your enjoyment of these episodes are not based on whether you've seen those documentaries or not. But if you have seen those documentaries, there is some extra layer of fun that you can have out of those, because Hader Hader is playing Carville perfectly in that one. He also in the spoof on the kid stays in the picture. I don't remember what the episode's title was. He plays
Mr. Runner-Up.
Robert Evans.
Yeah.
He plays Robert Evans to an absolute fucking T in that episode. But yeah, there are a couple of misfires. There's a couple of weird ones that are thrown in there, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on in this? But they're just kind of stretching out and experimenting a couple of times. But yeah, there's some really good ones.
Yeah,
in those. And that one that you mentioned is one of the funniest ones.
If you really want to get into it, the Blue Jean Committee, Gentle and Soft, two-parter one will absolutely kill you. If you've ever seen the Eagles documentary that ran on Showtime, that one in particular will get you. But it's funny.
Basically, introduced somebody to this show with one episode into just
the entire series
for the whole series.
Yeah, the entire series. But no, watch either of those two though. The Bunker or Juan Likes Rice or Chicken. The second one. Watch the second one. The second one will knock your socks off. You want to do one more?
Let's do one more.
Very simple question. What is your favorite child actor performance?
So I don't know if you guys have seen Paper Moon, but Tatum O'Neal is great in that.
Long time ago.
That movie.
She won the Oscar for that?
The Legend. She did win the Oscar, and she was, I believe, the youngest to ever win until maybe Anna Paquin.
Yeah.
But Tatum O'Neal, I think the legend is that Peter Bogdanovich really had to work to get that performance. But still, once it's all edited and everything, and you watch the movie and everything, you won't be thinking about that. You'll just be seeing how great she is. She's also great, by the way, in Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
If you ever get around to that one. The other one that I mentioned on this is Brooklyn Prince in the Florida Project.
Oh, God. She's the main little girl, right?
Yeah.
Performances
wrecked my shit.
She has a moment at the end of this movie that you cannot walk away without crying.
Nope, it's literally impossible. It's science.
It is
science.
impossible.
I don't know.
Wrecked my shit.
Mm-hmm.
She's such a terrible behaving person through this entire thing, though.
Well, that they explain that pretty well with the home life.
Oh, it's so and God, her mother is so terrible too. But you also kind of get some insight on that. I love that movie so much. We should talk about that every podcast.
yes, we should. Well, I want to talk more about this movie down the line, so I'll tease you with that. But the kid playing David in Minari.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Mostly Korean language film with Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead. Fantastic movie. Probably my second favorite movie of the year so far. Still have a good handful to get through. But it's lyrical. It's gorgeous to look at. And it's just a simple story of a Korean family trying to make it as farmers in 1980s America. But the little kid, his name is Alan S. Kim. He's been in one other project before this movie called Latchkey Kids, which I'm not aware of. But he gets by a lot on the fact that I think this kid in real life is charming as hell. But he's also acts as an actor to show emotional range that you don't often see from, I would guess he's maybe 5 years old, 6 years old when they shot this film. And he and the grandmother really have to carry the film at certain points, and they do just fine. I want to talk about this movie more later, but he's phenomenal. That was my first answer. The other one I thought of was Maisie Williams in the second season of Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know her exact age at this point. I think she was close to, I don't know how old she is, but I know when the show
23
started.
or 24.
Yeah, now.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So
and then she was like 14.
Yeah, still 13 or 14, I think. Playing a little bit younger than that. And the show has basically brought her, she cut her hair. She's trying to pass herself off as a boy. and she ends up face to face with her family's biggest rival, the Lannister. What's his nuts? Tywin. And she spends the whole season as his cupmaid, basically, his cupbearer. And she gets to listen to a lot of the meetings. And he doesn't know that she's his enemy's daughter. He just thinks she's some poor girl because she's very clever and she's come up with a story. But I was impressed that whole season with how well that actress held her own with Charles Dance. Is it Dance? Who's been around for forever and is a formidable actor. And I think it's just got to be that innocence of youth where you don't know enough to be intimidated by the guy you're acting opposite, because the show really needed her to have that, like, I'm not afraid of you. I'll cross words with you. I'll cross swords with you. And she's great. And it's one of my favorite parts of the whole show. But certainly that second season was one of the things Game of Thrones does excellent, especially with this character Maisie Williams plays, is put odd couples together and wring great drama and comedy out. She spent the whole season with the Hound later. That's just priceless. But anyway, yeah, Maisie Williams surprised me. And I thought of all the child actors that were young when that show began, I think she's the best. Anyway, so there you go. That's my answer.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think she's got a good career ahead of her, this Maisie Williams.
Yeah, I think so. She was good in New Mutants.
She was. She was in a movie that we saw, the Visitors. What was that movie, Chris, that we saw where she played the girlfriend, the home invaders?
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name right now. Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, it's called The Owners.
The Owners. Yeah. She's really good in that. A child performance that is kind of overlooked because it's just kind of ingrained into the culture is Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. He was around 8-9 years old when they filmed that, and he had to carry that movie almost by himself. I mean, obviously Catherine O'Hara and John Hurt are doing their thing while they're off and running, and Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern have their thing. But man, there's a super big chunk of that movie that has to be carried in a solo performance by Kevin McAllister and Macaulay Culkin, and he nails it. Not so much in Home Alone 2, but that's not his fault. That's Home Alone 2's fault. And Home Alone is great, but my real answer is one that gets a little bit overlooked these days. It's a sequel, Addams Family Values, where Christina Ricci absolutely slayed her performance as Wednesday Addams. Now, the first one of this is clever. I think it was great. It was Barry Levinson, I think, that did the maybe both of them, right?
Barry Sonnenfeld.
Barry Sonnenfeld. I get those two confused all the time.
I know. One of them should change their name.
They really should. But she was great in that first one. Raul Julia is fantastic in that. The whole cast is great. But Addams Family Values is underrated as a movie, both because it was kind of a sequel to a silly remake of a TV show. But man, when they send the campers off, and Peter McNichol is one of the campers or the counselors, and I think it's Baranski. Christine Baranski is the other one, and they're all happy and joyous, and they're like, "Hey, look on the sunny side." And Wednesday Addams obviously is not that, and how it culminates is just absolutely fantastic. And as I am about the same age as Christina Ricci, I fell in love with her at that point. And I'm still kind of in love with her. But that's a great child performance that I appreciated when I was a child, and I appreciate now as an adult. Christina Ricci, people.
It's hard to believe Christina Ricci is 40. Going to be 41 in a couple weeks.
It's my same age. It's meant to be.
It's meant to be. That's right. Better tell your wife about that.
She'd be fine with it.
Or else, they'll at the end of it, you're going to have to explain to her why it's her fault.
Yeah. I'll be like, look, you've been cold and distant, and you work too much.
You were never around.
What
did you expect me to do?
Dick's not gonna
we came full
itself.
circle. That's going to do it for this episode. Keep going to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter, We're on Discord. If you want to get on Discord, go to the Facebook page and private message me, or you can go to the Reddit page and find a link on the right side. We're also on SoundCloud. But that's going to do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Shear. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com. And that is still a part of Acuff Chapel today.
Nice.
Oh, that's gross. That's gross.
There it is. It's like John Cusack going to his old locker and finding the old weed he stored there and everything.
There were many. I've heard so many stories.
How do you know? Reset. Hit the reset. Reset.
Wouldn't that be awesome if all of a sudden I was in a different shirt and like,
Blink.
That would be amazing.
Crab Imperial tonight, Jeremy.
What?
I'm making Crab Imperial tonight.
What's that?
It's a crab dish.
Well, yes. Thank you.
It's they used to make it a lot in the 50s. I've been doing a bunch of like retro recipes. Like I did a 10-layer dip for the playoff games this weekend.
Yeah.
It was fucking
What's
rad.
the crab imperial? You're still not telling me.
It's jumbo lump crab, like the real good stuff that you can get at Publix.
Yeah.
With a little bit of mayo and Dijon and breadcrumbs on the top, and you bake it. And apparently, and like a little lemon on top. And apparently it's amazing.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's basically crab.
Yeah.
It's crab legs without having to go through and fucking work for
That's
it.
the thing. I hate work.
mm-hmm.
I
haven't had crab in for a really long time, and the last time I think it was at a casino that had a buffet, and I was well, I might as well get the crab, and I got it, and I didn't have any clue how to get the fucking crab out of those legs, man, just no clue.
Oh yeah,
and I was looking at other tables to see how they were doing it, and I was just like, no, I don't know what they're doing. There's some nuance to it that I'm not understanding.
Did you quizzically just stare at it?
Yeah, probably for a long time, just sitting there and just like tearing at it and trying to figure out where the seam is or whatever the fuck it is that you need to get the crab out. And I was just cannot find anything, and just kind of like finding ways to eat bits of it as it went down.
You went away and made us sad.
Did you open a Pepsi free?
If you want a Pepsi, you're going to have to pay for it.
Are you qualified to do that?
No, of course not. She was like, no. And I was like, God damn it.
Wow. Jeremy has left the building.
True story. It's a true story. I don't know what to tell you.
I definitely enjoyed hearing it.
I got a delivery of my new hi-hat stand. So now I'm going to be drumming up a storm tonight.
What?
A hi-hat stand. For hi-hats? For drums?
You have a set of drums?
Yeah. I think we've had this conversation before.
But was I stoned?
Are you now?
There's that scene in there that I love. It's on the track. I love it. Where he's like, why did you stop playing? And then he starts getting back into his doom, 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 doom. He goes, wait a minute. Like, I asked you why you stopped playing, and then you just start up like a wind up monkey.
That's at the very beginning when he's recruiting him, right?
Yeah.
Old Dave Grohl.
Old Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl is old. He's just turned 52.
Yeah, but
did you say 52?
Mm-hmm.
That's 7 years from where I'm at, you dick.
Oh yeah, you're old too.
I guarantee you that he has more energy than all of us.
Yes.
That guy is the real deal, man.
I went I've been to one Foo Fighters concert in my life, and that was probably 5 years ago.
Oh yeah,
and they played, I don't know, 2.5 hours, and he was in that chair that he got from who did he get that chair?
Axl
from?
Rose.
Yeah, that's right. Because he had just like hurt his back or something or whatever. But 2.5 hours, they're into the show, and he comes out like they move him like closer out into the area of the general admission. He's like, I want you guys to know that I can go all fucking night. And they went on for like another hour or so. It was like a long show, man.
And that was like 5 years ago.
If I'm not mistaken, he fell off. He broke his leg at a concert.
Yep.
Went to the hospital, got it set, came back and finished the show, and then was in the chair for the rest of that tour because his leg was broken.
Yeah.
That's a guy who loves him some rock and roll and the rock and roll lifestyle. Right?
It's about as pure as it is, right? I mean, I've seen plenty of rock stars come and go in my day, and plenty of them love to rock, but not. It's like a Ken Griffey Jr. swing. This guy's love of love of rock is that pure, right?
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, he was 19 when he started with Nirvana, and he's been doing this, for almost all of his life.
Don't you?
And before that, he was in a DC punk band. I forget what it was, but it was really, really good.
Don't you have to believe it's he saw how dark rock and roll can be with Kurt, and not even probably before Kurt took his own life. And I feel like that only infused his joy of, like, he made some kind of subconscious decision to just rock was going to equal love, and it wasn't going to be this dark thing that,
Well, yes, you're right. And yes, especially as the years have gone on, but The Color and the Shape, their second album, he had a band. The first one he did all himself.
Right.
All the instruments. And the second one,
he still does when they record.
No. He doesn't do that after Color and the Shape. But Color and the Shape, this is before Tyler Hawkins, their drummer now, got into the band. They had another drummer that played all of the tracks, and he decided at the last minute he's just going to play over him and kick the drummer out of the band. And that's when they got Taylor Hawkins.
I thought for sure that I read that even after Taylor Hawkins came on, Grohl still did the drum parts in the studio.
There's Nothing Left to Lose, I think, was their third album, and Taylor Hawkins was on that one. It was Color and the Shape that he recorded, because Pat Smear is on Color and the Shape.
I'm going to Google.
Do it.
If I find out that I'm wrong, I'm not going to bring it up again.
All right.
No, think of it. I may have seen Foo Fighters open for Red Hot Chili Peppers in that one
in '99 or 2000, somewhere around there.
I know I saw Red Hot Chili Peppers. I don't remember if it was Foo Fighters or not, but
they toured at the same time that Californication came out, because maybe it was not Nothing Left to Lose. What was their third album? It was the one that had Dead Actors and it had February Sky. Not February.
I think
Sky.
The Color and the Shape is the only album title that I know.
Color and the Shape is the second one. There's Nothing Left to Lose, and then anyway. But Taylor Hawkins, who was in Alanis Morissette's band, switched over to Foo Fighters at that point.
And they also got the bassist and the guitar from Sunny Day Real Estate. Where did he get those?
I think so. I mean, Pat Smear was from Nirvana, the later days of Nirvana, and he's still with them now after a little break. And he was in the Germs before that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the bassist came from Sunny Day Real Estate for sure. And then I don't know about the other. They have a big band. They have got 7 people in that thing.
Yeah.
Keep Googling, Jeremy. I'm right.
What? I don't even know what you're talking about.
There's only a few times where I'll say, you know what, I'm right, and Google can suck my taint.
I have a feeling we're gonna get done with this podcast today, and then Jeremy about an hour later is gonna be like, "See, here it is."
I think at this point I'm thinking of a different band, a different person.
You may be thinking about Smashing Pumpkins.
I was thinking I may be thinking about Smashing Pumpkins.
Billy Corgan does do all that, including the bass. Not the drums. Jimmy Chamberlain recorded all the drums for all their albums.
I think I have a case of mistaken identity here.
But you're right. He did the same thing with Siamese Dream. He like James Iha did his stuff. Darcy Retzky did her part, and then he went back in and re-recorded everything.
I just loved when we had Maggie on, and you had like seen her dad's band probably at the time he was playing, and
that
it
was
like
awesome.
The most random. Oh yeah, I saw that band. Oh, that
was
band,
it King
yeah.
Crimson?
Well, and not only I saw Project 2, which was one of their side bands, and I've seen King Crimson as well. I think you've seen King Crimson as well, but I don't think you watched them because they were at that show Andrew was at that Stone Daisy played. I think it was one of those shows that they played. King Crimson did. But Project 2 I watched at Cannery, and
oh really?
I didn't know who anybody was in the band or anything. I just liked King Crimson, but they were playing as Project 2 at the Cannery, and when I mentioned Project 2, she goes, "Oh yeah, I mean they had Project 1, Project 2, Project 3." Oh, I was like, I didn't even know that.
That's awesome.
We also didn't we see Dua Lipa at Cannery?
Yes, we did.
That was a fun show. Yeah, we saw Dua Lipa. Chris is like, hey,
you have
she's
a
gonna
whole
be in
drum
town.
set. You guys have like some fucking secret lives, man. I'm only like,
you know
let in
about
on
all
part
of
your
this.
lives.
Dua Lipa, I had been seeing all these videos on MTV for like the whole summer. And number one, I was like, I kind of like these songs. Number two, I was like, she's pretty.
Yeah, she is.
And so like, I heard about Dua Lipa playing at Cannery, and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm gonna get tickets to that. I mean, a Cannery, and they were sold out, but I got like StubHub or something. I bought them.
They were
for
like $40.
twice. I think they were twice
Yeah.
the value or whatever. And that was a fun show to go to.
It was. It was stayed up past my bedtime, but like we were there with a bunch of like, well, it was 18 and over, so we were there with a bunch of like 20-year-olds.
Yeah. We were definitely the old people in the fucking
I
group.
can't think of a more anxiety-inducing scenario for me than being at a concert.
Yeah. No, I understand that. This was a nice, friendly crowd. This was not like a Rage Against the Machine crowd or Limp Bizkit crowd or anything like that.
There's one band that I wish I could have seen is Rage Against the Machine.
You're not kidding, man.
Yeah.
And they played 328 several times.
Right before the pandemic, I thought they announced a new tour. Maybe they'll do it after the
They
pandemic.
did. They were going to play in New York, and we were actually even thinking about planning a trip around it.
That's right.
That'd be awesome. I remember I saw Michael W. Smith once, and he had a rapper open for him. I think his name was Mike E.
Mike E.
And then in the Christian radio world, he had like one hit. I don't remember a lot of opening bands, but I saw Michael W. Smith. See, this is where the concerts I can talk about come in. Back before I was anxious with crowds and back before I lost my hearing, I saw Michael W. Smith 6 times. I saw Whiteheart 4 times. I saw Petra probably 10 times. There you go. He's holding up the Michael W.
I just
Smith
found 2
baseball
tape
card.
singles.
Tape
from
single.
one from Michael W. Smith, For You, which I don't even remember.
That's a good song.
And then This Baby.
Scorpions.
There you go.
I never saw them.
Follow the ghost guy.
I used to be able to sing that Michael W. Smith song where he's like, "You are holy,
Oh, yeah.
holy." That song, and one of the cats that we had at the time would start meowing, like you wouldn't sing any other song, you wouldn't meow. You sing that song, that cat would start meowing at you.
That's hilarious. That I think is on his Christmas album.
The For You? Or the You
No,
Are
the
Home?
one Chris was just
I don't
singing.
remember this being a Christmas album.
I think you were singing Agnes Day.
What was? Yeah, that was Agnes Day. There was a huge Michael W. Smith hit that crossed over on that.
Oh,
album.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
And I can't remember what the name
I know
of
what
it
you're
is.
talking about. Now I have to know. I'm
I
gonna
do
find
too.
it. I'm
I'm
gonna find it
Googling.
before Jeremy.
Oh, look at that. Dave Grohl played the drums on Michael W. Smith's album.
Place in This World. My place in this world. My
that's
place in this world.
Maybe his most not good song ever.
Looking for
We had
a
some really good
reason.
music.
Dude, I rocked the shit out of that song, man. I would always sing that song. And Agnes Day, that album. I listen to that album a lot.
Agnes Day is a song or an artist?
The one that I
album,
was singing earlier about the cat was meowing at me.
Oh, Agnes Day. I'm sorry.
AGNUSDEI.
But you were talking about somebody named Agnes. I was like, what the hell?
I can see that.
Yeah, it's a jaunty little bop bop piano thing. You'll like it if you can find it.
He's 63, this guy.
Jesus, man. Is the whole podcast going to be you telling me how old I am? Because
Oh, yeah, you're old as shit.
I'm not.
I tell you what's going to really fuck with you guys this year as you start hearing about birthdays and stuff. Like people like Natalie Portman's going to be 40 this year, and Julia Stiles will be 40.
Paris Hilton being 39 was enough for me, and that was worse than Macaulay Culkin being 40.
Right.